Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Yes She Can Project podcast. I cannot tell you how excited I am to have the gorgeous Stacey Fleece here today. Hello, Stacey.
I am so happy to be here. Only like if not only just for the name of the podcast. Yes, she can. That's going to just motivate me for the rest of the day. Like, yes, I can.
Yes, you definitely can.
Right?
Um, so, Stacey, for anybody who doesn't know, we connected via Samantha and yourself, and I've been on your podcast. Now you're on my podcast, and it's a really like international friendship, which I think is really special.
I love the over the ocean connection that we have had through the power of the internet and podcasting and just that you like we love all of our guests on our podcast, but there was a different connection with you. You were just so sort of one of us and just feeling like your spirit is so working in the same direction as ours that
Yeah.
it's pretty cool that we've got sort of power women all over the world.
Definitely. And I think the work that you guys do is just continuing that connection and is going to enable you to reach all over the world, definitely. Because I think people can see the sincerity and the passion that you both have for what you're doing for helping other women. And I just think it's amazing.
We're working on it. We're working on it. But the podcast has been fun because it really has it started for us as just a fun COVID project.
Yeah.
Just we were all stuck in our houses. And there are days I miss that, by the way. If I'm being honest.
Same.
Like there's moments where I'm like, COVID was fun. Um, God, that's awful. But okay. Anyway, and we were missing our friends, and we had
Yeah.
so many cool, fun friends that were doing really cool, amazing things. Never
Hmm.
really talked about it. Don't have a platform to talk about it. So we thought,
Yeah.
let's just start a podcast. We had no idea what we were doing, but it was
Oh,
really for us to connect with our friends and stay connected. And so
definitely.
we just started having our friends come on Zoom with us and recording it and putting it up
Mhm.
on the internet, posting it. And 4 years later, it's still going, but it has
Crazy.
really been amazing to meet so many cool women doing really remarkable things. And
Mhm.
not all of us get a platform to talk about it.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
to be able to hear what people are doing, and it has turned into women all over the world, which has been
Mhm.
really cool.
And you've had some amazing guests on as well, haven't you? It's been so incredible to like listen to so many stories. But do you know what I find with podcasting and speaking to other women is inherently we all have so much of the same experiences, but to be able to share them, it really helps other women feel like they're not on their own. Because no matter what you do for a living, no matter what you're passionate about, we all have, most of the time we all have the same insecurities, we all have the same things that we're juggling, but just in different situations. And I just think it's such a collaborative togetherness kind of vibe, isn't it?
I think that's completely true. And we I think we do all go through these different stages of our lives and different moments. And you do feel alone because as women, we don't like to talk about the bad stuff. We don't ask for
Yeah.
help. We want externally to, put that smile on and everything's great. And then when you shut the
Mhm.
doors, right, it's a total fucking disaster.
Yeah,
But
it's true.
you don't want to go out in the world with that energy. And so you think it's only you, but
Mhm.
newsflash, it is not only you. Like
Yeah.
the ups and downs that I've had in my life, and for so long I didn't talk about them, not even to
Yeah.
my friends, which is honestly, I look back on it, I'm like, why did I not lean on them more?
Yeah.
Um, and it wasn't embarrassment. It wasn't I don't know. It's just it was like I don't part of me. I think you don't want to bother anybody.
Definitely.
You don't want to and as a professional who was trying to build a career and make a career, like I don't want to exude any kind of feeling of lesser than. Like I want to
Yeah,
make
or like
sure that I'm
vulnerability.
yeah,
Mhm.
and so behind the scenes, there's all this crazy shit going on, and then you're trying to portray this like fully put together professional working mom sitch.
Yeah.
And oh God, it's been an interesting adventure.
Ah, well, I want to hear more, Stacey. Talk to me a bit about your journey. So what would you say that kind of your childhood was like? Let's start from there.
Well, I was raised by a single mother.
Okay.
My parents got divorced when I was probably about 9 or 10, and my dad moved to the East Coast and kind of became one of those very non-present dads. Like it was the
Right.
phone call on your birthday, phone call on on Christmas dad.
Hmm.
Um, and when I say move to the East Coast, for us that's 3,000 miles away. So
Oh,
it's a
wow.
significant distance between where
Okay.
I was and where he was. So it was really my mom. I have two sisters, and so it was just kind of, the four of us, and we figured it out. It
Mhm.
was, looking back as a child, like I never really recall wanting for anything. Like we
Yeah.
were fine. I mean, I wanted a horse. I didn't get a horse, but in the scheme of things, like I didn't really want for anything. But as an adult looking back, I know it was tough on her. And I know there were times that she was working two and three jobs to try
Oh,
to
bless.
hold it all together.
Yeah.
And I think as kids we don't know those kind of details, but we do see strength and perseverance. And
Yeah,
that's what you
totally.
take away from it, right?
Hmm.
So, for me, as I got to be an adult and college, and I graduated from college, and I had always studied finance. I've been in finance my whole career, and out of college I ended up in hedge funds, which is a pretty exclusive industry,
Yeah.
and kind of fell into it sort of. But I worked for one hedge fund for about 10 years, and
Okay.
had was there, kind of started as ops and moved my way into doing some research and some trading, and so kind of took the gamut of experiences, and then went to another hedge fund for a couple years. And it's interesting when you work for someplace where you've been for 10 years, where you started right out of college. I think sometimes they have a hard time looking at you as anything other than the kid that just came out of
Yeah,
college.
definitely. Yeah.
So 10 years fast forward, I moved to another hedge fund. This is the first, other hedge fund I've worked for, but now I'm coming in
Hmm.
with 10 years experience. Didn't really realize kind of the career difference that makes.
Okay.
Um, so that was sort of interesting. And then a couple years
Is that in
after
terms
that,
of responsibilities, like the
yeah, and
more
just the
responsibility?
level of responsibility, but level of respect and sort of
Okay.
expectations, and that you had a voice, right? Like all
Wow.
of a sudden I had a voice. And keep in mind, hedge funds is very male dominated industry then.
Yeah.
It honestly still is. I think it's
Hmm.
better now, but Samantha and I talk about industries that are pale male and stale, and hedge funds probably right at the top of the list, right?
How
And
how did you navigate that as a woman during
It
that time?
well, it was difficult, especially as I got married and had my first child, and I was still in
Hmm.
hedge funds. And um it's funny because that actually had an impact on where I ended up going in my career, because
Okay.
after being at this second hedge fund for a couple years, I ended up spinning off with another research analyst, and we started our own fund. So it was the two of us, and we
Amazing.
had our own fund, which was amazing. And we raised 150 $200 million to get started very quickly. It was
Wow.
it was an amazingly fun time. Like this this was kind of the gold standard of finance. And here I
Mhm.
was, in my early 30s, and I made it. And
Amazing.
we were building our fund, and it was great. And then we had that for a couple of years. And then 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
And at the time, we always worked on the West Coast, so I was not back east. But of course, I worked with so many of those people on
Yeah.
Wall Street, and we hear a lot about Cantor Fitzgerald and Keefe Bruyette and Woods, who all had offices in the towers and lost a lot of people. And I knew a lot of those people. But
Wow.
I think it didn't matter whether you knew people in the towers or not. I think we
Mhm.
all sort of took a pause on our life and said, am I
Definitely.
doing what I should be doing now? Am I on the right path? And I
Mhm.
think we all kind of were forced into this, I need to rethink and just make sure I'm doing what I need to be doing. And at the
Yeah.
time, my son was 9 months old. I
Oh
have
my
two kids.
gosh. That's a
I
high
have a
pressure job for a mum,
yeah,
isn't
and
it?
I was working from, 5 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Wow.
and running this hedge fund. I had a nanny who was raising my son, and
Hmm.
it just, after 9/11, it just all of a sudden didn't feel right anymore, which is interesting because all of my peers were men who had a lot of them had young children, but they all had wives at
Yeah.
home taking care of the kids. And I was
Hmm.
the wife, and I was doing the same job as them, but also being the mom. And I felt like I was having to make career decisions that they didn't have to. And to me, that was bullshit.
Hmm.
I'm not angry about the decision I made to leave the hedge fund industry. I am
Hmm.
still, this many years later, I still feel a little bitter about the fact that I had to make choices that they didn't. And I
Yes.
think that professional women still find themselves in that arena. And it's frustrating.
100%. Yeah.
But the right decision for me was, why the fuck am I having my nanny raise my child? He's 9 months
Yeah.
old. Like, I need to find something that can allow me to have a career and have the role of mom, right? And be there
Yeah,
for him. So,
definitely. Did you
so
enjoy the work that you were doing though,
I
Stacey?
loved it.
Did
Like
you?
the
Yeah.
hedge fund, I mean, it was exciting. It was
Hmm.
stressful, don't get me wrong, but it was exciting. It was dramatic. It was interesting because as a hedge fund manager, you're really just making the rich richer, but
Yeah.
because that's your client base, right?
Hmm.
But I really did love the work. And so to feel like I had to leave it, although the right decision, I
Yeah.
still, like I said, I'm still frustrated that the decision never had to be made for,
Yes.
because all of the hedge fund managers I knew were men at the time.
Hmm.
So they didn't have to make the same choices.
Yeah.
So we closed the fund, sent the money back. My partner ended up going to work for another fund. I left that
Mhm.
industry altogether. Had to find something. I still wanted to stay in finance, but had to find
Yeah.
something that allowed me the flexibility to be the mom of my 9 month old.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I felt like all Wall Street jobs ever train you for is other Wall Street jobs. So I was getting a lot of calls, like people were like, come work here, but it was all more
The
Wall
same.
Street jobs. And I was
Yeah.
trying to get away from a position that started when a bell in New York rang, right? Like I don't that
Yeah.
I can't, I need that, I need flexibility.
Hmm.
Um, so I ended up moving in. I had a friend who was a real estate agent, and she at one point had said to me, "You should become a mortgage banker. You'd be great at it." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Are you kidding me? Like I'm a hedge fund manager. Like why? Why would I be a mortgage banker?" And then all of a sudden I found myself like, what am I going to do? So I thought, all right, I'll
Mhm.
give this mortgage banking thing a try.
Yeah.
And, when you go from being a hedge fund manager to a mortgage banker, it's a little like, gold standard of finance to used car salesman.
Okay. Oh,
And
yeah.
I found myself in a very strange position
Hmm.
because you go to cocktail parties, same person, same history, same education, same experiences. People treat you very differently when you're a
I
hedge fund
bet.
manager than all of a sudden when you're a mortgage banker.
Hmm.
So it was it was a really awkward and uncomfortable transition for me. But
Oh.
it was a job that I could stay in finance, do what I still love to do relative to working
Hmm.
in finance, helping people. Now I wasn't making the rich richer. I was making people wealthier through home ownership
Yeah.
and helping more of the masses. So that end in my brain was cool, but my
Hmm.
ego was extremely damaged. And
Oh.
it was interesting. For the first 6 months, I didn't even want to tell people what I was doing for a living because
Oh,
we're
bless.
treated so differently.
Hmm.
And I don't even know how I got clients in the first 6 months because I didn't want to tell people what I did for a living. I don't know where they came from. Um,
Well,
but
they probably
after
gravitated towards you because you have that energy about you that's it's just so helpful, positive.
they
That's probably
they
what it was.
they found me eventually, but I do remember waking up in the middle of the night one night and being like hit over the head with a brick, like, "Hey,
Oh.
if you're struggling because your peer group now as a mortgage banker is the bar is so low, then it's not
Mhm.
going to be that hard to be better than everybody else." So I
Yeah.
literally was like, "Get over your ego, own what you're doing and just be the best. Just be the best.
Yeah.
So, and here I am 20 years later, and I'm still doing it. And I love this industry, and I'm
Wow.
super happy about it. And it's given me
Hmm.
the flexibility to raise my kids, which has been great.
Yeah.
Because I now have two. So my son just graduated from college, and my daughter now is a sophomore in college. Um,
Oh.
so that's kind of, the that so that is the work transition that I made, the
Hmm.
career journey that I had. And then I had this other big event where when my kids were little, 6 and 9, my husband decided to check out. Like he was just done. He just there was a lot of things going on in his life, and I admittedly we were struggling, but
Yeah.
he left with the intention of, figure out how to get your shit together, and then let's figure out how to incorporate you back into the family because what we were doing wasn't working.
Okay.
And when he left, he just kind of like never came back. like
Oh my
like I
God.
mean literally like didn't see the kids, didn't talk to the kids, didn't talk to me. We didn't even know where he was. Like physically
Oh
didn't know
my
where he was
life.
living. And so all of a sudden I found myself in this, we built this two income life and with two
Hmm.
kids, and all of a sudden I found myself trying to figure out how I was going to run a two income life on my own in
Oh
a
my
in a
God.
job that, I mean, I don't know about mortgage bankers there, but here it's basically 100% commission job. So
Right.
you earn money based on how much you produce, and that's it. And now I
Hmm.
have two kids that I'm handling on my own. Um, that was a weird that was weird. And I
Oh,
wasn't
I'm
I wasn't even sure how that
surprised.
was going to work.
And was it just like a bolt out of the blue? Did you have any inclination? Did you think
No.
that was the plan that he was coming back?
No, that was like we talked about it. Like he needed to kind of go out and find himself a little bit, and I
Hmm.
wasn't gonna. It was a very codependent thing, and I wasn't not gonna
Okay.
participate in this codependency anymore. So it was
Yeah.
like, I mean, literally said, you need to go out and figure out how you're gonna handle yourself, and then let's figure out how
Hmm.
to incorporate you back in. And so no, so he moved out. I came back to see the kids literally once, about a month
Oh,
later, and then gone. Like just gone.
oh my gosh.
So so that was probably the most shocking moment of my life when I realized
Yeah.
this is my new normal and I have no fucking idea how to do this.
Shit.
Um
Did you have plenty of support around you, like your family and friends
I
and
so
stuff?
I live in San Francisco and I have no family here. So
Oh, God.
all my I grew up in Seattle, Washington, up north,
Hmm.
and most of my family was still up there. I had no family down here. I had some really good friends, but as you and I have talked about before, like for some reason we in I don't know, in that situation I didn't feel like I could reach out and ask for it was
Yeah.
I don't know if it was embarrassment. I don't know if it was just I didn't want to seem weak. I don't know what it
Yeah.
was,
Hmm.
but I did not like asking for help for women, I think is really, really tough.
It is.
And when you go out and you drop the kids off at school, or you go to, back to school night and you see all the other parents and you've got a smile on your
Hmm.
face and you're like, everything's great, it's all
Yeah.
good. And then you go home and you close the door, and like, I mean, there were countless nights where I would put the kids to bed and I would go in my room and I'd shut the door and I would just cry for 2 hours because I had no
Oh.
idea how I was going to make this work.
Mhm.
And at that
Oh,
point,
I just want to go back to you at that time and be like, yo, Stacey,
I,
how can I
I wish
help?
I wish I'd handled it differently, 100%. If I knew then what I know now, right?
Mhm.
But my whole goal was just, I want to keep the kids in this house. I want to keep them in their school.
Yeah.
I want to keep them in their activities so their life is impacted as little as possible. Um,
Because do you
but
guys have to pay for school in America?
well, we don't have to, but my children were in a private school, and
Okay.
that's all they knew, and that's where their friends were,
Yeah.
and so how was I going to do that, right?
Mhm.
And it's funny. I look back on what my experience with my mom, where we talked about at the beginning, where you
Yeah.
know but you don't know, and
Mhm.
what you know is, when you look back, is that the strength and the resilience, and that's what you take from it. And
Yeah.
I feel like I don't like victims. I can't play victim. I don't like people who run that role. It's
Mhm.
not my world. The easier thing would have been to curl up in a ball and sit in a corner and just be like,
Mhm.
I can't, victim me, I can't do this. That's
Yeah.
not in my DNA. I
No,
can't.
not at all.
And so, I think a lot of women who have gone through similar situations like this, like, we just kind of get up in the morning and go, we don't have a fucking choice. Figure it out. Like,
Yeah.
what? And
Mhm.
it got to the point where literally I was like, okay, how do I get through tomorrow? Don't think about next week. Don't think about next
Yeah.
month. When I went to bed, I just had a plan to get through tomorrow, and had to kind of just one step at a time go that
Yeah.
route.
Because not only the financial pressure that you found yourself under all of a sudden, it's what are you having to say to the kids? Like you've got the emotional burden as well of that and the situation, how it's going to affect them, the the fear of not wanting anybody else to find out. There was so much going on, and you had to then go out and put this brave face on in order to do your work.
It's so stupid. Like, I didn't have to go out and put a brave face on, but I did. And
Yeah.
why do we feel like we have to do that?
I don't
I
know.
don't, I don't know, but I did. But yeah, it was, all of a sudden it was like, okay, great. My kids are we're just fleece party of three.
Yeah.
And of course I knew what it was like to grow up without a present father. And
Hmm.
now my kids, here I was, I felt like history was so much repeating itself, without me even trying to get it to repeat itself. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
it wasn't me, but yet here we are again. And it's, for my son especially, I wonder, I didn't really, I mean, we had three girls in my family, so I didn't really know sort of how does this work, what kind of male, people, do I have in my orbit that can be his sort of,
Like role models.
yeah, because I he
Mhm.
wasn't going to have one. And so it was a weird time. It was a really weird time. And
How long
it
did that
still is sometimes.
uncertainty, how long did that uncertainty go on for?
Um pretty much years, because I didn't know if he was just going to show up one day. Like,
Mhm.
I didn't know what was happening. And it's funny. Eventually, I did file for divorce. It literally took me probably 6 or 7 years after he left. I was married that whole time with no idea where he was. And
Wow.
finally decided, he's probably not coming back. Like, I guess at this
Oh,
point I should go ahead and file for divorce and make this
yeah.
official. And here you have to serve. One person files for divorce, and then the other party gets served the papers, right? They have the
Okay.
process server who serves the legal papers that your spouse has filed for divorce. I mean, some people know it's
Okay.
coming, some people don't, right?
And did you
Um,
know where he was in order
no,
to?
here's the fun fact. We had to hire a private investigator to
Oh
find
my God.
him, because we had no idea where he was. And it turns out, here, 6, 7 years, he hadn't seen his children. Turns out he was living literally 12 minutes away.
No.
I was absolutely dumbfounded. Absolutely. And then, he never responded to anything. He never showed up in court, never filed a thing. And so I mean, it was a very easy divorce, because basically I just said, what's mine is mine, what's his is his. I don't want anything.
Mhm.
He gets nothing. My
Yeah.
whole thing was, I wanted 100% physical and legal custody of the kids.
Yeah.
That was it. He could have
Hmm.
visitation. I knew that he was never going to use it, but
Hmm.
I didn't want to have to negotiate holidays and doctor's appointments. And like, after 6 years, I'm not dealing with
I'm
that
not being
shit.
funny, but he doesn't deserve to
No,
have any say in that if he can
no.
walk away and not come back.
Absolutely none. Absolutely none.
Oh my
So
God.
that was weird. But then it was very sort of unceremoniously done. Like, it felt like
And that
I'd
was a
been,
weird feeling though, because you've
it
been
was
in limbo
still,
for such a long
yeah.
time.
I had been, quote unquote, single for so long.
Hmm.
And yet when it was final, it did have this air of finality, and it was
Hmm.
still, you do still have that feeling of loss, even though it had been 6 years. I still,
Hmm.
it was still a weird, it was a weird moment in my life.
It's like a grieving process in a way, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. And for those 6 years, I hadn't done it because
Hmm.
I was still, you're still married. And I don't know if I ever really thought he was coming back, but I was still married.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I wasn't. And it was, yeah, it was very strange. It was very strange.
And has he seen the kid? Did he have like a good relationship with the kids before he left?
He did, which was weird.
Weird,
There's
yeah.
I mean, if honestly, I think there might be he went to West Point and was in the military, as which is the military college, right? One of the
Oh,
military
okay.
colleges here in the US.
Hmm.
And so he was in the military, served in the military for a handful of years as a result of, you come out of West Point with this amazing college degree that's free, but
Yeah.
you also then serve as an officer for X number of years. And he did
Okay.
that. And during his time, he served in the first Gulf War.
Hmm.
Um, and I do think maybe there's some untreated PTSD in there somewhere.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, but also like toughen up, Buttercup. If that's your situation,
Yeah.
like get the help you need because you have
Hmm.
a wife, you have children, you have responsibilities. And
Definitely.
I spent a lot of time the first couple of years trying to figure out why and trying to explain away the why. And then I
Yeah.
realized like I don't have energy for his why. I have all my
Hmm.
energy needs to focus on my work and my children and being able to support them and guide them and do this. I can't fucking deal with your shit.
Yeah.
So I stopped using any energy on that anymore. And people always ask like why? I'm like, I don't know and I don't care anymore because I
Exactly.
can't, that is not a good use of me.
Yeah. And it's not your responsibility to work out why. If he wanted to tell you why, then that's up to him. But it's not on you to get answers to a situation that you didn't cause.
Exactly. Exactly. So here we are, like fast forward and 2024 and it's, I've got my kids in college now. I'm
Amazing.
not gonna lie and say that everything's peachy keen. Like the
Hmm.
financial struggles are still real.
Yeah.
Still in an industry that, it's basically 100% commission and there are up
Hmm.
years and down years and none of it's been easy. But
Yeah.
what my kids see is the same thing I saw in my mother is the strength and the resilience. And they, they may have lost out on some things in not being in a two-parent household, but they
Hmm.
gained things that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So
Yes.
I try to be
Absolutely.
satisfied in that ability.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, and it's funny because I for years I didn't talk about my story. And it's a lot of ups and downs and it's a lot of shifts and pivots, and I hate that
Yeah.
word, but for lack of a better word, changes that we weren't expecting, right? So we have to
Yeah.
reinvent. And I
And we
can't,
have
like I
to
said,
take what we can from them, though, don't we? We have to take what we can from these situations and use it to our advantage, whether that's to help ourselves or to help other people. So, by you speaking out about your story, you're not able to change any of the facts. You're not able to change anything that happened or the feelings that you had. But what you are able to do is harness some power in order to help somebody else.
yeah, yeah, I hope so. Because curling up in the corner, like I said, that's not, honestly, it's not an option. Like, just
Mhm.
don't be the victim. Like, you can have your moment. You can have your. I had plenty of nights where I sat in my room and cried and was like, "What the fuck is
Oh,
happening right now?"
yeah.
But you pick yourself up the next morning and you keep moving.
Mhm.
And like
Your
I said,
kids
it's.
must be so proud of you, Stacey.
I hope so. I mean, they're at the age that they don't tell you.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe when they're a little older. I mean, they're college kids, so
Mhm.
I think they are. Um, I think what they see is just the that I lived my life with just ruthless accountability, and whether that was accountability to myself, to them, to my
Yeah.
friends, to my community, to my bills, whatever it
Mhm.
was.
Yeah.
We don't give up on ourselves. We don't.
Mhm.
And
Definitely.
you just get through tomorrow. That
Mhm.
that is my biggest piece of advice for somebody that's maybe deep in that hole, because I've been deep in that hole multiple times. Just get through tomorrow and don't worry about next week. You'll figure out next week next week.
Exactly. Definitely. That's wonderful advice. So, I mean, is there any way that you could maybe go back into being a hedge fund manager now that the kids are grown up? Would it be something that
I
you'd be?
probably could. And I've thought about it over the years, but to be honest, I'm actually really happy what I'm doing.
Mhm.
And, home ownership, and this is not specific to the US or to Britain or anyplace else, but home ownership is I think, the best way and the fastest way to build wealth and to build familial wealth that you can pass on to your children, and
Yeah.
to break cycles of family poverty. And if you can get
Mhm.
into a house and then maybe get you trade up and you trade up, or you
Yeah.
buy a little investment property or whatever. And building equity in home ownership over the years has historically shown to be one of the best ways to build wealth. And so to be able to help people in that arena find
Yeah.
find the ability and understand how they can make this work for them over the
Mhm.
years and work for their children over the years. A house is more than just a roof and where you raise your kids. That's a lot
Yeah.
of it, but it is also a big piece of your investment portfolio. It's a big piece of your
Yeah.
future.
It's a huge
And
asset, isn't it?
it's your biggest liability, but it is also your biggest asset too. And
Mhm.
historically, real estate will outperform almost any other investment you can make.
Yeah,
So to
definitely.
have the privilege of helping people in that specific arena, as opposed
Mhm.
to the stock market where I'm making rich people richer, it's
Mhm.
a different feeling of going to work every day. And
Yeah.
it's a different satisfaction for me. And I as much as I loved the hedge fund industry, I don't think I want back in.
Ah, interesting. Well, I think maybe like the way that you are as a person, Stacey, as well. I think not only helping people to get on the property ladder and get houses, I think it's more if you think about whenever someone buys a house, it's always, almost always, one of the most pivotal times in their life. So it's either when they've been through a separation, it's either when they've bought their first house, something really exciting for them. You're actually the person that's there throughout those. I don't know what you would call them, like big signpost moments in somebody's life.
It's
So
an
there's a real
emotional
blessing.
time. It's
Yeah.
a high emotion moment when you're buying a house. And so to be able to help them navigate that is a big deal. But
Mhm.
what I also love, and my favorite client, is the woman who doesn't think she can buy a house on her own, either because she's now in her 30s and she's not married and she wants to be married
Mhm.
and she wants, why I'll wait to buy a house till I'm married. No, don't. Do what you want to do for you now.
Yeah.
Or the woman who just got divorced and had to sell the family house as part of the divorce agreement and
Mhm.
doesn't think she can go out and buy one on her own.
Yeah.
Or the woman that maybe has just rented her entire life. I closed yesterday on a condominium actually outside Seattle for a client, single woman, never been married, 58 years old, bought her first house, bought her
Oh,
first
bless her.
property. And
Oh,
that was like, to be able to be able to steer and guide and help through that process.
yeah.
That's pretty cool. And these women that one of my favorite clients bought a 3-unit building. She's living in one and renting the other two. We mathematically figured it out. So basically, the rents cover what she has to pay for that building. She'll build
Amazing.
equity in that building and
Yeah.
live for quote unquote free because the rents are covering it.
Oh my
And
God.
the equity she's building in that property, her plan then in 2 to 3 years is to pull out some of that equity and go buy another investment property. So
Amazing.
she's now got this vision of what she can build. She's,
Mhm.
she's in her 40s, not married, but she realized I can do this on my own. Women are
Yeah.
way more powerful than we think they are.
Oh,
Women are more powerful than
definitely.
we believe we are sometimes. So
Yeah.
really to be able to impact that
Mhm.
specific market has been a real blessing for me.
And you're empowering other women, which is really important as well.
Yeah, financial security and financial independence is probably one of the most empowering things that we can have.
100%.
Not because
Definitely.
money buys happiness, but it buys you freedom. It buys you
Freedom.
freedom to say no.
Hmm.
You don't have to say yes to everything if you've got financial independence. It buys you freedom to really live the life you want to live. It buys you
Hmm.
freedom to help your kids in the way you want to help them as they become young adults. So
Yeah.
there's a lot that goes with it, and it's not, like I said, it's not just happiness. It is,
Hmm.
to be able to get up in the morning and know that you can do exactly what you want to do and say no to the shit you don't, because you don't have to do the shit you don't want to do.
And that's huge.
Yeah.
That is massive for us as women to feel like we're in that position, and that's what I hope that every woman feels like in the future, if not already.
I hope so too. We're getting there. We're one at a
Yeah.
time, right?
So do you think, Stacey, that's why I could see a little dog? Do you think that's why your work with the Sparkle Foundation is so close to your heart because of who you guys help?
100%. So Samantha, who is the founder of Sparkle Foundation, she and I have been friends for 20 years. And Sparkle Foundation is based here in the Bay Area, and it's not a very grassroots nonprofit that specifically supports single women and their children in various
Mhm.
capacities. And I hear a lot of the stories. I know what's going on with these women. I've been there.
Yeah.
I do sometimes feel like a poster child, and I'm actually fully accepting of that role. I want that role because I
Hmm.
want them to be able to see that you can get through to the other side. It's not always
100%.
pretty. It's not always fun. It's not always
Mhm.
comfortable. Even when you're on the other side, it's not always fun.
Yeah.
But there is empowerment in you can do this.
Yeah.
And so the work when Samantha started Sparkle, and then a year or two after she started it, she asked me to come on the board with her, and it's
Hmm.
been such a labor of love for me because I have been there, and these are, I see myself in so many of these women, and I
Yeah.
want to give them the encouragement and the understanding that it can be scary, it can be awful, but they can do this.
Yeah.
um
And the hope as well that, and I think you're like living proof that it is possible. So to be able to have you almost like a beacon of light and a real life experience of that, I think is phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah. And so yes, I hope in sharing my story and being very vocal about it, which I wasn't for years. I want people to see that you can get through it when you're, you know, cast into this single parent lifestyle. And for me, it wasn't even
Mhm.
single parent, it was solo parent.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of women there's a lot of women who are like that. And those are two very distinct things, by the way. Because I have a lot of
Yeah.
friends who are single parents. I have other friends who, like me, are solo parents, and those
Mhm.
carry different challenges.
Yeah. 100%.
Um,
Definitely.
but yeah, so I have gotten very deep with Sparkle, and honestly, community service has always been very important to me. I was actually and am still a member of the Junior League here. You guys have Junior League in London. It is an international women's service organization, and I've been a member of the San Francisco League forever, past president of this league. And so it's always been a big part of my life. Um,
Yeah.
but the personal attachment to Sparkle, because I am one of those women. I won't even say I was one of those women. I still am.
Hmm.
Um, it's it's made a real difference to me as much as I hope we've made a difference to the women that we've served.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, Stacey, I could talk to you all bloody day.
But it's late where you are. I know you're wrapping up your day. I'm just getting started.
Yeah, you're ready for the day.
I
Well,
am.
it's been an absolute pleasure. So, if anyone wants to find out any more about you, where can they find you?
Yeah, please reach out. Best place to reach me probably is my Sparkle email, which is Stacey,
Okay.
Stacey at sparklenow.org, or Instagram, just Stacey Fleece. It's just my name. It's super exciting. Those are the best places to find me.
Okie doke. Well, hopefully we will have some news over the next few months or so, and hopefully we can actually get together in person because that would be epic.
Over some tea or a
Yes.
warm beer that you guys serve in your pubs. No, no cold beer, just room temperature beer and cold toast. That's what I remember. I went to school in Cambridge for a period of time,
Did
and I
you?
just remember it was very difficult to get ice. That
Oh
is,
God, yeah,
yeah, you
yeah.
can't get ice in anything. So I gave up after a while, but
Hmm.
I do love it
Whereas
there.
in America, it's like it's a whole glass of ice before you
Oh
even get the
yeah,
liquid in there.
100%.
You know
So
what
yeah.
I love about America is the all you can eat like buffets. Like
Oh
we came
God.
when I was a teenager. I remember coming, and I remember for my breakfast I had like piled my plate high. It's like pancakes, syrup, and your bacon is amazing.
I'm a big bacon fan. So
Yeah,
yes, it is
nice.
amazing.
It is, yeah. It's bizarre. And then you go to McDonald's, right? I mean, this was like what 20 odd years ago that I went. You go to McDonald's and you ask for like a regular meal, but it's our size large.
Oh,
It's
I'm sure.
bizarre.
We overachieve when it comes to food here. There's no doubt about it. It's embarrassing actually, but
Oh, I think
you
it's
know,
brilliant. You'll never go hungry if you
no,
go out for food in America, that's for
no,
sure. Because
that is
it
true.
quite a lot of it's all you can eat, isn't it, as well?
There is a lot of it out there. I am
Mhm.
not a big all you can eat girl. Like I don't go to
Oh,
those
I am.
places. Except Easter brunch. I do love a good all you can eat buffet on Easter brunch.
Mhm.
That is my thing. But yeah, there if you want all you can eat, you can for sure find it any day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hopefully we can make it happen, Stacey, and then we can show everyone all of our behind the scenes stuff of what we're getting up to.
That sounds good.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an
Thank you for
absolute
having me.
pleasure,
It's always
and
good
you're
to see you.
amazing. Yes, you too. I'll speak to you soon.
Sounds good.